So we have officially reached the conclusion to the prequel trilogy. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith was released in 2005, once again directed by George Lucas, starring Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Ian McDiarmid, Samuel L. Jackson, Natalie Portman, a whole lot of other people, and I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie because it was the first Star Wars movie I actually remember seeing in theaters. Like I said, my mom claims that they took me to see Phantom Menace when I was a baby, but I was a baby, so I don't remember that. But I vividly remember going to see this opening weekend with my dad and my older sister. My mom trying to convince me to go watch Madagascar instead, and me constantly refusing. So yeah, enough of these ramblings. Let's go ahead and get started with the good. And there's a lot that I really love in this movie. First of all, I do really like Hayden Christensen in this movie. I did not mind him in Attack of the Clones, but I think he's far better in this one than he was in Attack of the Clones. He captures more of the darker side of Anakin Skywalker and the emotionally vulnerable side that Palpatine is able to manipulate very easily because of his emotional vulnerability. Ewan McGregor, absolutely terrific in this movie as Obi-Wan. I really love this portrayal of the character. This is probably the best portrayal of Obi-Wan Kenobi in all of Star Wars. Maybe we'll get a new best portrayal with the Obi-Wan series dropping in a couple weeks. We'll have to wait and see. But I thought he did a fantastic job. He captured the spirit of Obi-Wan perfectly, and the brokenness to this character that we get when Anakin turns to the dark side and Obi-Wan has to fight him. It's such an emotional performance, especially after he defeats Anakin. It's a very sad scene, and Ewan McGregor captured that perfectly. Natalie Portman is really good in this movie as well. She's given a lot less to do in this one than she was in episodes 1 and 2, but she was still really good. I really liked her chemistry with Hayden Christensen. Now, I've been holding off on talking about this character until this one, and that's Ian McDiarmid as Sheev Palpatine. And he was really good in the first two movies, but he was on a whole new level in this film. I really love Palpatine. He's one of my all-time favorite Star Wars villains. And Ian McDiarmid portrays him perfectly. He's such an evil, sly, manipulative man. And the way he sees Anakin's vulnerability, he's able to twist that and turn him into something that he wants him to be. I just really love it. You know, you get that whole Darth Plagueis the Wise scene, which has become a meme, sadly. But it's really genius how he manipulates Anakin into believing what he wants him to believe, and his eventual transformation into the Emperor that we know from the original trilogy, with his duel with Mace Windu. And eventually Mace Windu does lose because Anakin interferes, but that's aside from the point. I really like that duel. It's a very short duel, but I still really like it. And then, obviously, you got Christopher Lee back as Count Dooku, really only for a 5-minute scene near the beginning, then he's killed off. But once again, I still really like Count Dooku, even though he's barely in it. And then you have the third main villain in this movie, and that's General Grievous. And this was my favorite Star Wars character as a kid. I just thought he looked awesome with the 4 arms and the 4 lightsabers, and he's able to spin them around. I thought he looked really cool, and I love his duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi near the middle of the movie. I really love that scene, and I really like near the end of it when Obi-Wan's basically bested, so he just takes a blaster and he kills General Grievous. He gets up, he's just so uncivilized, and it's a great scene. And then all the other action scenes are equally as great. You obviously have Obi-Wan versus Anakin near the end of the movie, which is probably the best scene in the entire movie. It's got a lot of emotional weight to it. You know, these two guys who were friends for all these years. Obi-Wan trained Anakin since he was a kid, and it breaks Obi-Wan's heart to have to do this. And I thought it was a great emotional scene. Then you have, at the same time, Yoda versus Palpatine, which you've got the strongest Jedi versus the strongest Sith Lord, and that's a very awesome fight. And it's constantly cutting between the Obi-Wan versus Anakin and the Yoda versus Palpatine fight, and I really love that because it showcased both of two of the greatest lightsaber duels in Star Wars history perfectly, and it really captured it perfectly. And aside from that, all the rest of the action in this movie is great. You have the Order 66 scene, very tragic, very emotional. You even have a Chewbacca cameo in this film. I really love that. You have all the space battles throughout this film. I really love all of those. And a lot of people hate on this scene because of what happens at the very end, which, yeah, it's kind of weird. But I really love the birth of Darth Vader in this film. After Anakin gets burned up, his arms and legs chopped off, he has to be put in this suit that has become a very iconic suit throughout cinema as a whole. And I really love that scene where he finally gets the helmet put onto him, and you hear Darth Vader take his first breath. It's an amazing scene. I really love it. Yes, you do get the infamous scene at the very end where he breaks out of his restraints and yells no, which, yeah, it's very awkward. It was a weird choice for George Lucas to make, but I don't think it takes away from the scene whatsoever because it's just a powerful scene in my opinion. And then after everything's said and done, you get the birth of Luke and Leia, and Obi-Wan delivering Luke to Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru on Tatooine, and going off to watch over him from a distance. And it ends on a very somber note because the villains do win, but it still has that hopeful note because we know that Luke Skywalker is being raised and Obi-Wan is watching over him from a distance. And that's just a terrific ending to me. And I just really, really, really love this movie. And moving on from the good, let's go on to the bad. And I really have nothing bad to say about this movie. I could nitpick the dialogue, but I really don't want to because just of how absolutely epic this film really is and the emotional beats that it carries throughout the film. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the final thoughts. I love Revenge of the Sith. To this day, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. One of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time. I love this movie to death. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith still holds up to this day for me, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. So that was my review for Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. What did you think about this movie? Let me know down in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.